I wanted to make this video to talk about who I think I am, because I've been making this channel and putting whatever on, and I think somebody might like to know about me. So I've been diagnosed with like every major mental illness in the DSM. And I live on disability in a one-bedroom apartment. Um, I've lived in Seattle my whole life, and I live in the city. Uh, I've lived in almost every neighborhood in what you could call Seattle, and I switch schools every 2 years or so for all. I dropped out in junior year, 11th grade. Um, so yeah, middle school, I went to the mental hospital uh, the first time when I was in 6th grade, and I got on antidepressants, and then later saw a guy that was speaking at my school, and he talked about having ADD, and I said, "Oh, I must have that." So I went to my psychiatrist and I filled out the test and got got prescribed Adderall. So I was on that. Um, Now I have schizoaffective bipolar type and OCD, and then like a debatable PTSD. So schizoaffective is both schizophrenia and bipolar type 1. So I've had mania. I'm trying to fight mania right now because it usually happens in July. And yeah, so I'm kind of reading off of a script. I'm trying to get some key points out. Um, yeah, I switch schools every 2 years or so. I tested into a magnet school, and then I did so well on the end of elementary school test that I got invited to an accelerated program or some honors program or something, but it seemed like I would have started college at the major university, University of Washington, in 6th grade. But I said no because I wasn't doing any homework. I would just sit and watch TV. Um, and I don't know, like I was kind of a savant, and all I wanted to do was play video games, watch SpongeBob, and shoplift. I later got into drugs like LSD, and when I was taking LSD every day, I lost the awareness required to be able to sleep. So when I stopped being able to sleep, I got on medication, and I'm on like some downers that make it possible for me to sleep. But if I like forget that medication, or if I forget melatonin, then I just can't sleep all night. Um, I don't smoke marijuana anymore. I don't do any drugs, but I still drink, and I can drink like a fifth of liquor in one sitting. And so, like, even going through mental health treatment, I've been in group homes and housing, and still have a therapist and still have a psychiatrist, and go to like community classes and groups and stuff like that. I've tried a lot of different things. Um, and drinking is kind of rare. Like a lot of people don't do anything and they take the medication. But when I got out of the hospital last year, I was gonna try to stay sober. It felt like a big thing, especially with my OCD. I was like, okay, if I take a drink, I'm gonna ruin my life, um, and like end up sleeping in the gutter or something. But I would go to the store every day and buy cold General Tso's chicken from the deli and a box of spinach, because I thought I was, managing my nutrition. And so I would eat that like 2 or 3 times a day, go back to the store, get more General Tso's and spinach. And I was burning all my money on that. And like I couldn't focus on cooking, I couldn't focus on kind of things loosening up and me like accomplishing tasks. Like I was begging on the streets for money to pay for my General Tso's. like um so I got some beer and I was like fuck it. And then the next day I made some pork vindaloo and naan bread and biryani, and I got back on track. But like, yeah, I wonder if the people that don't drink on their medication, if they're kind of locked in like that. Like there's a lot that they can't accomplish and they haven't learned the skills to like cook for themselves or, you know, whatever. Keep a discipline, whatever they need. But like my main problem is that I end relationships really quickly. Um Kind of the hypocrisy about living with a mental illness and seeking services and being well below the poverty level, is that you feel like it's kind of an edgy thing. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm like gangster. I listen to YNW Melly and Kodak Black, whatever, and like I'm probably going to prison, and like I've known people that have gone to prison, or are still in prison. But a lot of that is just because they think they need to like be juiced up on like the drugs and crime and like make something of themselves in that respect. And it's like at the same time people are dealing with so much fragility and relationships stop making sense to me. I got really traumatized in a group home. There was screaming 24 hours a day, kind of two people switching off. And we were supposed to keep a compost bucket, but nobody took it out. And so there were hundreds of fruit flies all over the house. And, someone was pissing by the back door. Um, there was a guy who moved in and he was like really, fast come on kind of guy. And I got to know him, and it turns out he was going to youth shelters and soliciting minors for sex. And he tried to get me involved in that. And so he was like, I thought he was my lifeline, and I really had no lifeline. It was the most fucked thing. You would put your food in the fridge, and then the guy that was living off of ADA would spend all his money on marijuana, and then he'd steal your food. And like he would steal your frozen pizza and put it in the hot oven and smoke a bowl and go to sleep. And the pizza would burn, once or twice a month. And the fire department would get called because it had a central alarm system, um, that would trigger when it detected smoke. So I lived there for a year and a half, and I really stopped. You know, I lost myself. I stopped being able to talk to people about my problems, and I moved into a different group home. There was uh, music playing all the time. A whole bunch of other issues, and I was just kind of done. I was just going to the alley behind the group home and drinking beer, and then coming back home because you couldn't drink in those places. So, um, let's see. The thing about the criminal activity is like a lot of people that are in gang life or hooking or whatever, will lose their minds and they'll move in, like start seeking services. So, but I don't know. I think about myself and how all this came to be. Like, I prayed for schizophrenia when I found out about it. I wanted, like, I didn't want my arms and legs to work when I was in kindergarten. I wanted schizophrenia. I prayed to God for schizophrenia and bad eyes, bad teeth. Um, and it seems like I've always wanted to live on the edge of rationality and like kind of illustrate the problem with like illustrate the problem with the problem that we are born with, which is how do you figure out this experience that we have for 70 years or however long. I feel like I'm working on that every day, but I'm mostly figuring out how to resist it. Um, and I've found some weird things. I have definitely the potential to misunderstand. Um, I thought I got abducted by aliens, and then I started talking to people about it, and then the things that happened that I think it was John Keel, the guy that wrote the Mothman Prophecies. He said if you talk about a real alien abduction, you'll get your photograph taken. People will come and try to investigate your living situation. So I had both of those things happen. The night that I told people about my alien abduction, there was someone standing in the middle of the busy street at 1:30 in the morning, and he looked just like John Keel described, and he took my picture through the car window. And then I got a knock on the group home door, and someone said they were going to rent the apartment that I was staying in and asked to see it. And I said, no, I live here. I didn't even see his face, but, there have been other times where I thought I was experiencing one reality, and then, I kept a video camera with me, and I was like, oh, I'm following this guy. This guy's really weird. He's like, you know, a teenager, and he's wearing a huge cowboy hat and talking on a Bluetooth. And I'm like, I'm gonna follow this guy around. This doesn't seem real. And then when I look back at the footage a couple years later, it's like, looks like a businessman from Dallas, Texas, or something. Definitely not like some unusual teenager. So I don't know. I spend a lot of time wondering like how exactly unique I am, and I don't think I have any way of finding out, especially since I can't keep relationships. But I am kind of getting the life that I dreamed of, to be like an anomaly. Um, and I'm kind of fed up with the persecutory decade we're in. And I feel like that's a lot about what life's about. Trying to, expecting there's going to be a problem with somebody else. Like you hire someone to your business and you're like, this person, I don't think he's going to work out. And then every day you think about that and he's working for you. And pretty soon he starts drinking because, he knows what you're thinking about him and missing days at work or whatever. It's just a sad system. And when I would smoke pot, I would go to this guy's apartment and there would be like 5 or 6 of us there. And we'd all watch something. And the room would just be quiet, you know, except for some non comments about what was on the TV screen. And it was like I knew we were going to circle forward to something, like, if I suggested a song, it would have to be a good song in line with what the vibe is or who we are or whatever. But it just kind of felt like a minute hand on a clock ticking. I was stoned and thinking, just about keeping my mind tidy. Like putting up my best appearance in this altered state where I'm not even sure if people can hear my thoughts or not. Or like, that's not good. You could say it's like a sauna. It could have been good for me. But I don't know. I kind of realized that the only person that was going to be good for me is me. And what good is what's authentic to myself and loving to myself. And I don't really care about telling people about my life anymore. I tell a story like, oh, I think I got abducted by aliens, or, my mental illness, blah, 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 mental hospital, this, like, and it's like assuming that we're going to have a relationship, but I know that I can't have relationships with people anymore. And so I really like just kind of jumping out here on YouTube and putting energy out there and kind of being myself and like amplifying my ability to be myself. Just a couple weeks ago, I was sitting at the bus stop on the way back from my therapy appointment, and this woman came up to me and she locked eyes with me. And I was like, who is this person? I started thinking things about her. And then I realized she was just like me. Like she had the same type of tattoos, same hair, same energy. And she stood next to me and she just started dancing for like 4 or 5 minutes until the bus came. And I just sat there and I was like, I don't have any dance left in me. I don't really have anything to say. It's just going to hurt. But we both got on that bus and like, I really wish that she sat next to me or something. And I've seen my doppelganger, I think 3 times. I call them my doppelgangers. It's like we both recognize each other and we're like, holy shit, you're me. Like, and we always have this moment. Like, it's usually with the city bus. Um, some woman rode her bike to catch up to the bus and then got on the bus and looked at me and realized that she was just like me. And we just kind of both looked at each other and she was like tapping her feet. And then she got off on the next stop and like rode her bike. I don't know what that's all about. In German folklore, they say if you meet your doppelganger, you're going to die. But I think it might be different for artists. And they weren't exact doppelgangers, but like soul twins or whatever. I think that's all I wanted to say. I feel like that's a pretty good ending point. I don't know if I'm really gonna get anywhere with this, but like, if you feel like you're a loser, like if you feel like you're not good enough, just do something so well that you can't fail. I make art every day. And I just want to see what happens. They say you have to You have to have like good business and social skills to make it in the art world, and that's really that goes back to like the whole spy versus spy thing. Like everyone wants everybody else to fail, and they're just kind of clocking you. But I think really like I have I I don't want to be edgy, but like I am mentally unwell, and I know how like prized the brains are of people with just schizophrenia, and I have schizophrenia, bipolar, OCD, you know, whatever disease you get from basically experiencing torture for a year and a half. Like I'm broken, I don't work. Like I don't even see or hear or understand reality. And yet I have a reality for myself, and so I think I'll be successful. I'm 32 years old now. Been making art for 5 years. And every day you don't make art or work on yourself, you know, you're having the time. If you do it every other day, you're doing it half the time. And if you're trying to find out who you are or who your people are or whatever, I would say it's more about what you can do as a person and what you need as a person, because we're all born into this world with kind of a Gordian knot that we're supposed to figure out, or a labyrinth or whatever. And that's really who we are, and what we do is try to navigate that. And so you can, of course, change who you are and do things about your appearance and do things about, your level of education and your insight. But that's not all you should be doing. You should stay true to yourself and try to solve the problems before you. So, anyway, hope this sits well with you. Uh, I think I've accomplished the goal of being unique. And thanks so much for watching. And please check out my sketchbooks and video edits. All right. Thank you. Bye.